What happened to Junaid?
I really want to believe that he's alive and is doing well. And I just hope he's found that someone who would understand him wholeheartedly. And I just hope he's found whatever he's been looking for all this while.
I was hanging around with a bunch of my brother's friends. They were all seniors. And we had snuck in some 12 bottles of beer. And as usual, we forgot an opener. So we were just wondering as to what to do. And here comes this Champu guy with his buttoned up shirt, and he just comes along and opens a bottle with his teeth. And I was just mind blown then. Like, I knew it right then that there was something special about Junaid.
I remember this one time when I asked him for a pen, he just wouldn't stop stammering. I really found it very attractive. There was this boyish charm to him.
Where did you first meet Junaid?
Where did I first meet Junaid? Good question. I don't think I remember, honestly. Who remembers stuff like that, man? Like, do you remember what you ate for dinner 3 days ago?
Junaid was a Bangalorean, just like me, but I hated him initially. I mean, it wasn't until I got to know the guy that I even started to like him. You know, I wish I could cook up some story to tell you about how me and Juno first met, but it wasn't like that. He was just like any other guy in college.
Juno used to visit the bookstore I worked at, and it was a small bookstore, but it had a nice collection. And he loved the Beat Generation, maybe like a bit more than I did.
The first time I met Danny and Juno, it was in McLeodganj. So, McLeodganj is littered with these little cafes, and they were sitting in the table next to mine.
The way Junaid saw the world was so different. He was so innocent and free, like he, like a bucket of fresh air in this mad world, like a stranger oblivious to his surroundings.
He was extremely spontaneous. Even while we were dating, there used to be these times when he used to come up with these surprises and take me to these places where no one's ever been before.
He had a troubled childhood. His parents died when he was a kid. But it wasn't like they left him without any money. They left him a load of money. So he was like a fat Indian version of Batman, but no Batsuit.
He would always come up with these random crazy plans. Like once at the middle of the night, at around 3 o'clock or something, we went out to buy smokes. And Junaid convinced us to eat breakfast at this random dhaba which was very far away. And we went there. The food was shit, but we ate a lot. My point is, Junaid always had this ability to convince people to do what he wanted.
I think he hit things pretty well. And nobody really knew what Junaid was thinking. You know, he wasn't as carefree as he pretended to be.
Was Junaid a drug addict?
Well, he wasn't a druggie. That's just impossible. He experimented with drugs in college, but I guess that's what people do in college, right?
I think I was a born pothead, so I know how typical stoners look like. And Junaid didn't seem like someone who would smoke up and all, but given that he used to read Kerouac and Hunter S. Thompson, I knew he was a closet stoner.
Though he was not really the kind to experiment with drugs. He became friends with this guy called Danny, and they both enjoyed books from the Beat Generation a lot. I really think that was the time when he started taking drugs.
He used to say like how he wanted to get under the skin of writers such as Kerouac and Ginsberg.
Well, yeah, if you count marijuana to be a drug, then he did do drugs. But then the thing with marijuana is that it's so ingrained in our culture that I think he was actually in 1985 when it was banned in India. The Rajiv Gandhi government buckled under global pressure and enacted the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, which pretty much put the possession and consumption of marijuana in the same league as crack and heroin.
Junaid wasn't like us. For him, smoking pot wasn't just about getting high.
I think apart from Kerouac, it was his breakup with Naina that fueled our road trip.
In the summer, when we all decided to do our internships at big companies, Junaid and Danny decided to go on their journey of self-discovery.
Both Junaid and I wanted to hit the road and we thought we should do it. We had no expectations and we had absolutely no idea where we would end up. But we did it anyway.
I did try being friends with him. I did miss him as a boyfriend. We were really close. But coming to think of it, I think I was really selfish. It was really stupid of me to have even tried.
Besides, it wasn't like a real road trip, you know. I bet Kerouac didn't have to think of buying fuel at such high costs. Besides, we were broke, but so was Kerouac. We intended to take my dad's beat-up old gypsy, drive all the way to Delhi, and from there to Dharamshala. But that obviously didn't happen, so... So we took a train to Delhi, and from there we decided we would take a bus to Dharamshala.
Junaid was fascinated by the hills. He would always talk of this trip he wanted to take to some random hilly place like Kulu, Manali, Shimla, and even Dharamshala.
Why did we choose Dharamshala? I think I said I wanted to meet Dalai Lama or something.
But sometimes I wish I could have gone on that trip with him. You know, maybe things would have worked out differently. Or I'd be a different person. Maybe.
The first time I met Danny and Juno, it was in McLeodganj. So, McLeodganj is littered with these little cafes, and they were sitting in the table next to mine.
We met Mia in Dharamshala. We were discussing Allen Ginsberg's Howl.
I'd always loved Howl. So to hear these two completely random guys talk about it was pretty intriguing, I guess.
I kinda had a crush on her. But it was evident that she had a connection with Junaid. that kid had some luck. We started volunteering with a few NGOs, initially just to do something. But Junaid had sort of fallen for the cause. Everybody has a different reason to go to Dharamshala.
Some people go there on vacation, holidays, school trips, honeymoons. Some people go there for answers, to explore the spirituality and Tibetan Buddhism, to learn yoga. And some people go there for the IPL because there's a stadium in the hills. And some people just go there to get high.
He found a strong sense of belonging in the Tibetan refugees who were so proud of their identity even though they had never seen Tibet.
He was this happy-go-lucky kid who one day decides to take on the world, to change everything that's around him. And he knew that he couldn't do much, but he tried.
You can say that this is where Junaid started becoming the person we know today.
I didn't really see much of Junaid once he was back, though I did hear rumors about him having gotten back a girl from there. I think her name was Mia. She was nice, a little strange.
Junaid convinced me to travel back with him. And at that point, I was very unsure as to what to do with life. And going back with him seemed like a good idea.
I still don't know why she would want to come back with Junaid. I felt that she was influencing him more than she should have.
Finally found someone he could talk to about his ideas on politics and society. The rest of the college community was too busy planning mundane things like fests and parties. But Junaid was beyond all that.
When Junaid went to Dharamshala, he was completely cut off from the world. Like, there were no phone calls, no messages, nothing. But Junaid was always a brother to me. But I guess I was wrong. When he came back, he looked like he had been through hell and back.
He was the guy who'd come onto campus and talk about the latest iPhone, and suddenly he went to being the guy who didn't even own a phone at all. I thought it was a phase. I thought it was going to pass, so I didn't buy into it. But Junaid had really changed as a person.
The Junaid who came back was different. He wasn't the same Junaid who left before the break.
Junaid was a lot more driven when he got back. He used to talk about these Tibetans back there and their lives. People actually started making fun of him after a point of time. They called him a homeless social worker, and they thought he'd turn into one of these crackpots you'd see on TV who'd set himself on fire. I was just hoping it was a phase and that things would be normal again. I did care for him, though I couldn't show much.
It almost seemed as if he had forgotten us. He wouldn't ride with us, he wouldn't drink with us, he wouldn't smoke with us. For him all that mattered was organizing some charity concerts or attending some peace seminar with a bunch of Firangs and some hippie looking people.
I really wish I could understand why Junaid felt so connected to Dharamshala. Before the winter break, when we were planning on making a batch trip to Pondicherry, all Junaid could talk about was Dharamshala. It almost seemed like he'd left a part of him back there and that it had become his adopted home.
I guess Junaid was convinced that he was wasting his time in college. For him, things like assignments, exam didn't really matter.
I think he was beyond all of this. I think he had a greater calling which none of us knew about.
You know, he felt that he could be doing so much more elsewhere. And he wasn't even kidding. Like he started working as a freelance writer for I think Tibet Post. He got involved in many pointless social issues. You know, I think it had become an obsession for him. You know, I had never seen Junaid this paranoid before.
I thought he was psychotic when he told me he was going back to McLeodganj. But then again, I kind of knew where Junaid was going with all of this, and I seriously didn't want him to end up like that.
He took the final call when he was suspended for openly criticizing his college in a blog post. He decided that he had nothing to lose, so he packed his bags and went back to McLeodganj.
I could never really understand how a kid from the city would feel so welcomed in a strange land so far away. I remember that day when he gave me the tightest hug ever. It almost seemed like old times again. And after the hug, right before he left, the last thing he said was, "I'll see you soon." That was the last time I met Junaid.
And I think I might have just randomly mentioned going back to McLeodganj, and the idea stuck. So we went.
Juno went back with Mia. I went to meet him that summer. He had found a job as a reporter for a Tibetan news outlet.
I remember reading a couple of his articles on the internet, and I was happy because his writing was finally going places.
Junaid finally started doing things. He started doing things that were worthwhile.
And it was being picked up by big newspapers and sites. But we spoke on the phone once or twice, but I really didn't have the time to go and visit him in McLeodganj. And I guess things were no longer the same.
I wanted to travel some more because I can't stay in one place for a long time. And I asked him to come along.
After Mia decided to travel a bit, Junaid joined Reporters Without Borders and told that he was working on something big.
What happened to Junaid?
I haven't heard from Junaid in a very long time. You know, after he took off to Dharamshala for the second time, I just completely lost touch with him. You know, and who the hell would know what Junaid is up to? You know, that's just the sort of guy he is. He's so unpredictable. But I guess people like Junaid aren't meant for the real world. Or I guess the world isn't good enough for them.
I really want to believe that he's alive and is doing well. And I just hope he's found that someone who would understand him wholeheartedly. And I just hope he's found whatever he's been looking for all this while.
I did go to McLeodganj with Mia, but we didn't find him.
A friend told us that he'd crossed over to China to do an undercover story in Tibet.
I don't know what he did or where he went, but he just disappeared.
I don't really know what happened to Junaid, but I think that China had something to do with it.
He just disappeared, man. I mean, I'd like to believe that he's alive and he's living happily, but there's a part of me that knows that he's dead and gone. I mean, that's how it's going to turn out anyway, but I'd hate to accept the fact that I'm right.
All kinds of connection, special connection, disconnection, objection to any connection.
What happened to Junaid?
Nothing happened. People change, places change, things change. The only thing that doesn't change is change itself. I did my share of fighting for justice and human rights. But people move on, and so did I. I wanted to explore myself, my writing, and I guess that's what got me here to this beautiful place, Goa. There are so many things that one could choose to do in life that makes them happy. And apart from writing, I also run this shack, and that's what gives me happiness. And besides, every story doesn't need to have a great ending, right?
Connection,
Very necessary.
not a connection,
Why not?
visa connection.
Definitely.
Chai chilam chapati, chai chilam chapati, chai chilam chapati. Connection.
And it's 3 a.m. Don't be afraid. We still have the time to be untamed. By the time we're young, contact pain, teasing love for fun, changing names. But we're all insane. But we're all insane. Though you like to run astray, but dancing's just as fun if you're today. By the time you know